Kamala Harris last night had one of her toughest interviews yet with Bret Baier on Fox News, and it was a sight to behold. Harris found herself cornered on everything from illegal immigration to her role as VP, and well, let's just say it didn't go smoothly. We're going to unpack every cringeworthy dodge and stumble, plus why it matters in the upcoming election. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, if you haven't already, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and smack that like button because it helps us with the algorithm to get our message out to more people. All right, let's talk about Kamala Harris's sit down with Bret Baier. It was a tough one, guys, and I and a lot of other people thought they were pretty easy questions, but there were questions that Kamala just couldn't answer if she wanted to be elected president because they were about her past and her failures. These are questions that hardly anyone else has ever asked her. Right from the start, she looked uncomfortable, and Baier wasn't letting her off easy. He pressed her hard on illegal immigration, asking about the number of undocumented people crossing the border. Her response? A lot of dodging and weaving. It was classic Harris. Could this be the moment that shapes her campaign ahead yet again? Give it a watch.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Bret.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries.
Look at her.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number, do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Bret, let's just get to the point, okay? The point is that we have a broken immigration system.
That they broke, guys. Don't forget this. They say that Donald Trump broke the immigration system. That's like having a bank vault that's left open all day, and they come along and they go, you know what, guys can go in there and steal from us. But then the bank president says, okay, well, we're going to close the vault from now on during the day, and if we have to go in there, someone with the combo will go in. Then he leaves the bank, and a new president comes in and says, you know, the last guy, he ruined our system here. He closed the vault, so people can't go in there illegally and take money. That's literally what she's saying. Trump fixed the border problem, and she's saying that he broke it.
That needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people
May I finish? She pulled that on Bret Baier.
have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico.
Yep.
And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration,
Listen to
within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath.
Just got her talking point ducks in a row.
Was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the...
Finish?
Yes, ma'am.
May I finish?
You did it again.
But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
responding.
Do you hear what he just said, guys? You had the White House, the House, and the Senate, and you didn't bring it up.
To the point you're raising.
Okay.
And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Guys, she's coming off like an angry, antagonistic bitch with an attitude. Is she not?
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem.
They opened the borders and let between 18 and 20 million people into the country. How is that fixing the border problem? She's nuts.
And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including
look at the look on his face.
Address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges.
In other words, she's talking about the things that would help to get the flow of illegals into the country quicker. That's what they did with this parole bullshit. They have people that are claiming they need asylum. You can answer in two questions whether they deserve asylum or not. Where you came from, was there a war? And was your government persecuting you, and how? Boom, that's it.
What we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings. What we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on.
She's stretching for time. She knows she's got 30 minutes of an interview, and so she's bloviating to eat up that 30 minutes. And you'll see that's why Bret keeps talking through her, because he knows she's full of crap.
Supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border.
What crap. And I know a lot of people are going to think that I'm nitpicking here, but this is really important stuff when you want to be president. She has no idea what she's talking about, guys. She memorized a bunch of lines of bullet points that she was given by her staff of all the points that she was supposed to get across in this interview. And just like when she screwed up the word price gouging by calling it price gauging, well, give it a watch.
Allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every.
I'm sorry, what did she say? She said it was a scourge. She read it in the study papers her team gave her. Guys, what happened to the old days when a politician who was going to give a speech would have someone in their crew, someone on their staff in the know, who would sit and listen to them and give feedback? Someone brighter than Kamala, which provides a very large field of people, who would have told her, Vice President, it's not scourge, it's pronounced scourge. But they don't have people like that. It's either that or nobody wants to go near her because she's such a bitch. Now, in this next clip, Kamala once again makes the claim that Donald Trump made phone calls to Republicans in Congress to kill the immigration bill. Trump has already said publicly multiple times that he called no one for that bill. Trump got on the phone and spoke with absolutely no one, but she still tells the lie. Now, Baier points out that 6 Democrats voted against the bill as well. So it was a bipartisan no, but give this a watch.
Allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs.
Kamala goes on again about the time when she was AG in California, claiming she prosecuted illegals coming into the country, which is like, I mean, who cares what she did as AG in California? She left our entire southern border open for 4 years as vice president, allowing between 18 and 20 million illegals in. Her time as AG means absolutely nothing here. Kamala thinks doing this is giving her credibility, but anyone with a triple-digit IQ knows she's just stalling for time in hopes that Baier moves along to the next topic. Spoiler alert. He didn't.
Guns and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing.
Again, the fact of the matter is, Donald Trump solved the illegal immigration problem with Remain in Mexico and a bunch of other policies he put in place. The fact of the matter is that Harris and Dementia Joe are the ones that broke the system. She's trying to say the other way around. She's crazy, guys. Now, here's where Baier pointed out the reason why Republicans and 6 Democrats had a problem with the bill that Kamala just touted. Give it a watch.
Are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm so glad he brought that up, because did you see the look on Kamala's face as well? Because she's lying throughout this entire thing, because she has to lie. How can she come out and go, yeah, that's right, Bret. We had horrible border policies. We left the border open. Yeah, all these people were murdered by people we let in because we didn't vet them. Now, here's the part where Baier actually talks about Laken Riley. This is important. Give it a watch.
President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics.
Did you hear what he just said, guys? He said what she's arguing is not true, because Laken Riley was murdered before Trump ever got involved in the politics of the immigration bill, which he said he didn't call anyone anyway.
This is a specific policy decision by your administration.
It was a policy decision. So executive orders and all of that, it was policy. Had nothing to do with the bill that she claims would have saved everyone, because the bill wasn't up yet.
To release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you know...
Look, she's disagreeing, and she's about to lie and say, no, it was the bill and Trump's the fault.
Those families, an apology.
Let me just say,
I'll never get an apology.
Those are tragic cases. There's no question about that.
She's not going to apologize, guys.
There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those...
Yeah, Baier's probably going, holy cow, we only got like 10 minutes left. How long is this woman going to talk?
Victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So...
Yeah, it shouldn't have occurred, but it did, because you let the guys in, Kamala.
That is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election...
He's about to tell her everything you just said is horseshit.
In 20 days... will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage.
How is it to Trump's political advantage to keep what they're doing, open borders? He just twisted. Let's get to Baier.
In an election, because there was a solution, Bret.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungary's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology, is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss.
I am so sorry for them. She's not going to say, I apologize, because she doesn't think she did anything wrong.
I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Sincerely. Well, he's a sincere idiot. So when they moved on and the topic shifted to President Biden's capabilities, Baier didn't hold back. He pointed out that the concerns people have suggesting Harris's presence might just be a way to reassure nervous voters. But Harris, she dodged that one too, choosing instead to sing Biden's praises. But why not tackle the real question head on? Is she afraid of admitting the administration's vulnerabilities? At one point, it was clear that Kamala Harris knew she was losing ground. She resorted to the classic blame Trump narrative, repeating claims about calling fallen soldiers suckers and losers, claims that have been debunked over and over and over again. It was a desperate move, one that only highlighted her struggle to shift the focus away from her own record. Now, throughout the interview, Harris came across as defensive, frustrated, and unable to handle tough questions. It's a far cry from the confident frontrunner her team wants you to believe that she is. Now, how many voters saw through this performance? How many are still left wondering if she's the right choice to lead? I think that number shrunk after this interview. Her focus on attacking Trump rather than defending her own track record might have been the most glaring misstep of the night. This could have been her chance to share a vision for the future, but instead she doubled down on the same stupid talking points. Is this what the American people want in a leader? In the end, this interview was a huge reminder of the work Harris has to do to win over voters. If she wants to expand her support for her campaign, she'll have to own up to the administration's actions and start laying out a clear plan. Will she be able to change course in time? Or is this just the beginning of a rough road to Election Day? She's got less than 20 days. All right. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to be kept up to date with Harris's latest moves and all things politics. I'll see you in the next one. Spread the word.